The clock on the dashboard read 2:47 p.m. when Naomi pulled into her driveway, a smile playing on her lips despite the exhaustion that pulled at her bones. She had convinced her supervisor to let her leave early from her shift at County General Hospital, something she never did because today was special. 10 years. 10 years of marriage to Derek, and she wanted to surprise him with his favorite meal and maybe, if the kids cooperated, a quiet evening together after they went to bed. The house was too quiet when she walked in. Derek's car wasn't in the garage, but that wasn't unusual. He worked in sales and his schedule was flexible. What was unusual was the envelope sitting in the exact center of the kitchen table, her name written across it in Derek's handwriting. The white paper seemed to glow under the afternoon light streaming through the windows, and something in Naomi's chest tightened. Her hands shook as she picked it up. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed, formal, cold. Petition for divorce, read the header. Her eyes scanned the words but couldn't make sense of them at first. Irreconcilable differences. Division of assets. Custody arrangements. Her breath came in short gasps as she turned the page over, looking for something, anything that would explain this nightmare. A handwritten note fell out from between the pages. She recognized Derek's messy scrawl immediately. Naomi, I can't do this anymore. I haven't been happy for a long time. Vanessa and I are together now and I need to start my life over. My lawyer will contact you. The papers are already filed. I've moved out. Derek. Vanessa. The name hit her like cold water. Vanessa from his office. The woman he said was just a colleague. The woman whose name had started appearing more and more in his conversations over the past 6 months. The woman Naomi had pushed her doubts about aside because she trusted her husband. She ran through the house like a wild person, throwing open closets and drawers. His side of the closet was empty. His dresser drawers were cleaned out. His shoes were gone from the rack by the door. In the bathroom, his toothbrush, razor, cologne, everything was gone. It was like he had been systematically erased from their home, and she hadn't even noticed it happening. Naomi grabbed her phone with trembling fingers and pulled up their bank account app. Her stomach dropped. The joint account they used for bills and household expenses had $73 in it. $73. There should have been over $4,000 in there. Her last paycheck, his commissions from last month, all gone. She checked the transaction history and saw a transfer of $3,927 made 2 days ago to an account she didn't recognize. She tried calling him. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same thing. She sent a text. Derek, what is this? Call me now. It showed as delivered but not read. She called his mother, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. Hello? Her mother-in-law's voice was cool, distant. Patricia, it's Naomi. Is Derek there? I need to talk to him. There's been some kind of mistake. There was a long pause. There's no mistake, Naomi. Derek told me last week he was leaving you. I thought you knew by now. Last week? You knew about this last week and you didn't tell me? It wasn't my place. That's between you and Derek. I have to go. The line went dead. Naomi sat down hard on the kitchen floor, the divorce papers scattered around her. She looked at the clock on the stove. 3:15 p.m. She had to pick up the kids from school in 45 minutes. 7-year-old Caleb from elementary school, 5-year-old twins Zara and Isaiah from kindergarten. 3 beautiful children who would walk through that door expecting their father to be home for dinner like always. 3 babies who didn't know their world had just shattered into a million pieces. How was she supposed to tell them? What was she supposed to say? Their daddy left us for another woman and cleaned out our bank account on our anniversary? She pressed her hands to her face and tried to breathe. The walls felt like they were closing in. 10 years of marriage, 3 children, a life built together, and he had ended it with a typed letter and a note that barely filled 4 lines. She forced herself to stand up and look around the house with new eyes. The mortgage payment was due in 2 weeks. She had no idea if Derek had paid it or not. The electric bill, the water bill, the car insurance, the kids' school fees, groceries. Everything ran through that joint account. $73 wasn't even enough to fill up her gas tank. Naomi's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Richard Chin from Dawson and Associates. I'm representing Derek Harrison in your divorce. Please have your attorney contact me to discuss settlement terms. She didn't have an attorney. She didn't have money for an attorney. She barely had money for gas to pick up her kids. The room spun around her and she gripped the edge of the kitchen counter to steady herself. This couldn't be real. This had to be some kind of nightmare she would wake up from. But the papers were real. The empty closet was real. The depleted bank account was real. And in 40 minutes, she would have to paste a smile on her face and pick up her children and somehow pretend their world wasn't falling apart. She looked at herself in the hallway mirror. Her scrubs were wrinkled from the long shift. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She had dark circles under her eyes from pulling a double shift the night before so they could afford the anniversary dinner she had planned to cook tonight. She looked tired and worn down and nothing like the bright young woman who had married Derek Harrison 10 years ago today. The anniversary card she had bought him last week sat on the counter, still in its envelope. She picked it up and read the words she had written inside. To my best friend and love of my life. Thank you for 10 amazing years. Here's to 50 more. She ripped it in half, then in half again and let the pieces fall to the floor like snow. 3 weeks after Derek left, Naomi stood in the bathroom of County General at 2 a.m. during her break, splashing cold water on her face. She had picked up every extra shift available, working 16-hour days, sometimes doubles back to back. Sleep was something she grabbed in 3-hour chunks between shifts and childcare. Her mother watched the kids when Naomi worked nights, but even that was becoming complicated because her mother had her own job and her own life. You look terrible, her coworker Simone said, walking into the bathroom. How many days straight have you worked? Naomi couldn't remember. I need the money. Girl, you're going to collapse. When was the last time you ate a real meal? When was the last time? Naomi grabbed whatever the kids didn't finish off their plates. She had stopped buying lunch in the cafeteria weeks ago. Every dollar had to stretch. I'm fine. You're not fine. None of this is fine. Has Derek sent any money for the kids? Naomi's jaw tightened. No. His lawyer says he's between jobs and can't afford child support right now. The judge set a hearing for next month. Next month? What are you supposed to do until then? That was the question, wasn't it? What was she supposed to do? The mortgage was 2 weeks past due. She had received a notice from the bank threatening foreclosure. The electricity company had called twice about the overdue bill. Her car had started making a horrible grinding noise that she was ignoring because she couldn't afford to fix it. And yesterday, Caleb had come home from school saying they needed $25 for a field trip. $25. It might as well have been $25,000. She had opened every cabinet in the kitchen that morning looking for something to pack in the kids' lunch boxes and found almost nothing. They were down to the last of the peanut butter and bread. She had used the last of the milk yesterday. She needed to go to the food pantry at the church, but the shame of it made her stomach turn. She was a registered nurse. She worked at a hospital. She shouldn't need a food pantry. But she did. She absolutely did. I have to get back to my patients, Naomi said, drying her face with rough paper towels. Simone grabbed her arm. Wait. I know you're proud, but I have some extra shifts available if you want them. And there's a management position opening up in the ICU. You should apply. Management? Simone, I barely finished my associate degree. They want bachelor's degrees for those positions. You're one of the best nurses on this floor. You're organized, you're smart, and you care about patient outcomes. Apply anyway. What do you have to lose? Everything, Naomi thought. She had everything to lose. But then again, she had already lost everything that mattered, hadn't she? When she finally got home at 7 a.m., after her 16-hour shift, the kids were already awake. Her mother sat at the kitchen table looking exhausted. They've been asking for you since 6, her mother said. Naomi, baby, you can't keep doing this. You're going to make yourself sick. I don't have a choice, Mama. You could move back home. You and the kids. We'd make it work. Naomi had thought about it. Her mother's small 2-bedroom apartment versus this 4-bedroom house that she couldn't afford. But moving would mean uprooting the kids from their school, from their friends, from the only home they'd ever known. It would mean admitting complete defeat. I'm handling it, Naomi said, even though she wasn't. She was drowning. Mommy? Zara ran into the room and threw her arms around Naomi's legs. You're home. Is Daddy coming home today? The question was a sharp stab to her heart. No, baby. Daddy isn't coming home today. But when is he coming home? It's been forever. How did she explain to a 5-year-old that forever was exactly right? That Daddy wasn't coming back because he had chosen someone else over them? Daddy is living somewhere else now, remember? We talked about this. But why? Did we do something bad? Naomi knelt down so she was eye level with her daughter. No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything bad. None of you did. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that don't make sense, but it has nothing to do with you. I miss him, Zara whispered. I know, baby. I know. Her son Isaiah came into the kitchen next, dragging his blanket. Mom, there's no cereal. I know. I'll go to the store later. When is later? I'm hungry now. Her mother stood up. I'll make them some eggs. I brought some groceries. Naomi felt tears burn behind her eyes. Her mother was on a fixed income, barely making ends meet herself, and here she was buying groceries for Naomi's family because Naomi couldn't feed her own children. Thanks, Mama, she whispered. Caleb appeared in the doorway, still in his pajamas. He looked at Naomi with old eyes, eyes that had seen too much for a 7-year-old. Mom, there's a paper on the door. It says something about eviction. Naomi's blood ran cold. She ran to the front door and ripped the notice off. 30 days. She had 30 days to pay the past due mortgage plus late fees or they would begin foreclosure proceedings. She did the math in her head. Even with all the extra shifts, even with the tax refund she was expecting, she couldn't come up with that much money. She was going to lose the house. She was going to lose everything. That afternoon, after she had slept for 3 hours and woken up with her heart racing from stressed dreams, Naomi sat at the kitchen table with a calculator and every bill she owed spread out in front of her. The numbers didn't add up no matter how many times she tried. Her income minus her expenses left her negative every single month. She needed Derek's income. She needed his child support. But his lawyer kept delaying, and the judge wouldn't enforce anything until the divorce was finalized, which Derek's lawyer was also delaying. She picked up her phone and called Derek's number, even though she knew it was pointless. It went straight to voicemail like it had every time for the past 3 weeks. This time she left a message. Derek, I know you don't want to talk to me. I know you've moved on with your life. But our children are suffering. We have no food. I'm about to lose the house. I'm working myself to death trying to keep us afloat and I can't do it alone. These are your children too. They didn't ask for any of this. Please just send something. Anything. They need you. Her voice cracked on the last word. She ended the call and put her head down on the table, exhausted beyond measure. Her phone buzzed a minute later. A text from Derek's number. For a moment, hope flared in her chest. Maybe he had heard her message. Maybe some small part of him still cared about his children. The text read, "This number is no longer in service. Please update your contacts." He had changed his number. He had completely cut them off. Naomi stared at the message until the words blurred. This was rock bottom. This was what it felt like to have absolutely nothing left. Except she did have something left. She had 3 children sleeping in their beds who were counting on her. She had her nursing license and her ability to work. She had her mother who loved her even when she was falling apart. And somewhere deep inside, buried under all the exhaustion and fear and grief, she had a spark of anger that was starting to burn brighter. Derek had done this to them. He had left them with nothing while he started his new life with Vanessa. He had abandoned his children without a second thought. He had taken everything and left them to drown. And she had spent 3 weeks crying and begging and hoping he would come back. She was done hoping. She was done begging. She was done crying over a man who could walk away from his family without looking back. From now on, every ounce of energy she had would go toward survival and building something better. Not for Derek. Not to prove anything to him. But for herself and for her children. She picked up her phone again and sent an email to the hospital HR department. I would like to apply for the ICU management position. Please send me the application materials. Then she searched for online programs where she could finish her bachelor's degree. Then she looked up information about food assistance programs and let go of her pride long enough to fill out the applications. She couldn't change what Derek had done to her. But she could change what happened next. And she would never, ever let him or anyone else make her feel this powerless again. 6 months had crawled by since Derek left. Naomi stood in the bathroom brushing her teeth when she heard crying coming from the girl's room. She spit out her toothpaste and walked down the hallway, her body aching from another double shift. The sunrise painted the walls pink through the thin curtains she had hung after selling the expensive ones to make rent last month. Zara sat on her bed, tears streaming down her face, clutching the stuffed elephant Derek had given her for her 4th birthday. Naomi sat beside her daughter and pulled her close. "What's wrong, baby?" "I had a dream about Daddy," Zara sobbed. "He was at my birthday party and he was smiling and everything was good. But then I woke up and remembered he's gone. Why doesn't Daddy love us anymore? What did we do wrong?" The question shattered something inside Naomi's chest. This wasn't the first time one of the kids had asked. Caleb had asked last week. Isaiah asked almost every day. But hearing it from Zara, seeing her daughter blame herself for her father's choices, made Naomi's blood boil. "Listen to me," Naomi said, tilting Zara's chin up so their eyes met. "You did nothing wrong. Do you hear me? Nothing. Your daddy made a choice that was about him, not about you. He's the one who messed up, not you. But if we were better, maybe he would have stayed. No. That's not how it works. You are perfect exactly as you are. You're smart and funny and kind. The problem isn't with you. It's with him. And I know it hurts right now, but I promise you we're going to be okay. We're going to be better than okay. How do you know? That was the question, wasn't it? How did she know? She didn't? Not really. But she had to believe it because the alternative was giving up, and she had 3 reasons she couldn't do that. After Zara finally fell back asleep, Naomi sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee and her laptop. She had been taking online classes through the local community college for the past 4 months, working on finishing her bachelor's degree in nursing. She studied between shifts, during lunch breaks, late at night after the kids were asleep. Her eyes burned constantly from lack of sleep, but she kept going. The ICU management position had gone to someone else, someone with more experience and a 4-year degree. But they had offered her a promotion to charge nurse on her floor with a 15% raise. It wasn't enough to fix everything, but it was something. And something was better than nothing. She had also started working on an idea that had come to her during one of her 16-hour shifts. Hospital scheduling was a nightmare. Nurses were constantly trying to trade shifts, pick up extra hours, find coverage. Everything was done through phone calls and texts and handwritten schedules that changed constantly. There had to be a better way. She had started sketching out ideas for an app that would let healthcare workers manage their schedules, trade shifts easily, and communicate in real time. She had no idea how to code, but she was learning through free online tutorials. It was probably a stupid idea. She probably had no business trying to create something like this when she could barely keep her head above water. But it gave her something to focus on besides survival. Her phone rang, making her jump. She looked at the caller ID and her stomach tightened. Derek's lawyer. Hello. Mrs. Harrison, this is Richard Chin. I'm calling to inform you that the divorce proceedings are moving forward. We'd like to schedule a mediation session for next week. I still don't have a lawyer, Naomi said. I can't afford one. The court offers mediation services. You don't need representation for this initial meeting. We'll discuss child support, division of assets, custody arrangements. Assets? What assets? Derek took everything. And where's the child support he's supposed to be paying? My kids are eating food from the pantry at church. Mr. Harrison has been experiencing financial difficulties. He's currently unemployed. Unemployed? How convenient. And how is he paying you? There was a pause. My fees are not your concern, Mrs. Harrison. No, but my children going hungry is. You tell Derek that he doesn't get to just walk away from his responsibilities. Those are his kids too. We'll see you at mediation next Tuesday at 10 a.m. He gave her an address and hung up. Naomi wanted to throw her phone across the room. Instead, she took a deep breath and made herself think clearly. Mediation. Okay. She could do this. She didn't need a fancy lawyer. She just needed to show up and make sure her kids were taken care of. She spent the rest of the morning researching child support laws and custody agreements. By the time the kids woke up, she had filled a notebook with information and questions. She wasn't going into that mediation unprepared. That afternoon, after she had made the kids lunch from the groceries she had gotten from the food pantry, there was a knock at the door. Naomi opened it to find Patricia, Derek's mother, standing on the porch. We need to talk, Patricia said, pushing past Naomi into the house. You can't just walk into my house uninvited. Patricia looked around with disapproval at the worn furniture and bare walls. Naomi had sold most of the decorations months ago. This is still half Derek's house until the divorce is final. Derek hasn't paid the mortgage in 6 months. This is my house now. What do you want? I want to know what you did to drive my son away. Derek was happy until he married you. You trapped him with those babies and now you're trying to bleed him dry with child support. Naomi's hands clenched into fists. Get out. I'm just saying what everyone is thinking. You couldn't keep your husband happy, and now you're punishing him for moving on. Your son abandoned his children. He cleaned out our bank account on our anniversary. He hasn't sent a single penny to help feed or clothe his kids. And you think I'm the problem? Derek said you were smothering him. That you let yourself go. That you cared more about the kids than him. Can you blame him for finding someone who appreciates him? Something inside Naomi snapped. She had spent months blaming herself, wondering what she could have done differently, trying to understand where she went wrong. But in that moment, looking at Patricia's judgmental face, she realized something crucial. She had done nothing wrong. She had worked herself to exhaustion to support her family. She had taken care of 3 children and a house while working full-time. She had loved her husband completely. And none of that mattered because Derek had decided to be selfish. That was his choice. His failure. Not hers. "Get out of my house," Naomi said quietly. "And don't come back. You're not welcome here anymore. You can't keep me from my grandchildren. Watch me." You knew Derek was planning to leave and you said nothing. You knew he cleaned out our bank account and you said nothing. You've never once asked if your grandchildren had enough to eat or clothes to wear. You don't get to be in their lives when all you do is make excuses for their father abandoning them. Now get out before I call the police. Patricia's face turned red. "You'll regret this. Derek is going to take those kids from you. You're clearly not stable. The only thing I regret is wasting 10 years on your son and putting up with your attitude. Leave. Now." Patricia stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Naomi stood in the quiet house, her heart pounding, her hands shaking. But underneath the fear and anger there was something else. Something that felt like freedom. She walked to the mirror in the hallway and looked at herself. Really looked. Yes, she was tired. Yes, she had gained weight from stress eating and lost weight from not eating enough. Yes, she looked worn down. But she also looked strong. She looked like someone who had survived. And she wasn't done surviving. She was just getting started. That night, after the kids were in bed, Naomi made a list. She titled it "Never Again," and wrote down everything she had learned over the past 6 months. Never depend on anyone else for your financial security. Never let anyone make you feel less than you are. Never give up on yourself even when everything falls apart. Never forget that you're strong enough to rebuild. She taped the list to her bathroom mirror where she would see it every morning. Then she opened her laptop and went back to working on her scheduling app. She had no idea if it would ever become anything real, but it was hers. Something Derek hadn't touched. Something she was building from nothing. And maybe, just maybe, that nothing would turn into something extraordinary. The mediation had been a disaster. Derek showed up looking tan and relaxed, holding hands with Vanessa like they were at a social event instead of deciding the future of their children. He had offered $200 a month in child support, claiming hardship because he was between opportunities. $200 for 3 children. Naomi had wanted to laugh, but she was too angry. The mediator had looked at Derek's financial disclosure and raised his eyebrows. "Mr. Harrison, you reported $60,000 in income last year. The minimum child support for 3 children based on that income would be approximately $900 per month." "That was last year," Derek said smoothly. "I left that job to pursue other ventures. Right now, my income is 0. "Other ventures?" Naomi had asked. "You mean living off Vanessa's money?" The mediator had cut in before things escalated. In the end, the court ordered Derek to pay $500 a month in child support, half of what it should have been, starting immediately. Custody was set at supervised visitation twice a month, which Derek had complained about but agreed to. That was 8 months ago. Naomi had received exactly 2 child support payments. The rest Derek simply didn't pay. His lawyer filed paperwork about financial hardship. The court issued warnings. Nothing changed. But Naomi had stopped expecting anything from him. She had learned to build her life around the reality that she was doing this alone. And against all odds, things were starting to improve. The promotion to charge nurse had given her enough breathing room to stop working doubles every week. She could actually sleep now. The food pantry visits had become less frequent as she managed her budget better. She had found a pro bono lawyer through a legal aid clinic who was helping her with the divorce and child support enforcement. But the biggest change was her app. She had spent a year teaching herself to code, watching videos, taking online courses, building and rebuilding the scheduling system she had imagined. She called it Shift Sync, and after months of testing it with her coworkers, it actually worked. Nurses loved it. They could trade shifts with a few taps, see everyone's schedules in real time, and communicate about coverage seamlessly. Her manager had been so impressed that she had gotten the hospital to pay for a pilot program. Naomi's app was now being used by the entire nursing staff at County General. And word was spreading to other hospitals. "You need to trademark this," Simone told her one day in the break room. "I was talking to my cousin who works at Memorial, and she said they're having the same scheduling nightmares we used to have. You could sell this to other hospitals." "I wouldn't even know where to start." "Start by protecting your idea. Then figure out how to scale it." "Naomi, this could be huge." Could it? Naomi barely let herself think about it. She was too busy surviving day to day to dream big. But Simone's words stayed with her. That night, she researched how to trademark software and file for a patent. The process was complicated and expensive, but there were resources for low-income entrepreneurs. She started filling out applications. Meanwhile, her children were thriving in ways that surprised her. Caleb, who had been so angry and withdrawn after Derek left, had joined the school debate team and discovered he loved public speaking. The twins had started taking gymnastics classes at the community center. They asked about Derek less and less. They had adapted to their new normal. "Mom, can Isaiah sleep over on Friday?" Caleb asked one evening while they were doing homework at the kitchen table. His mom said it's okay if you say yes. Naomi looked at her son, really looked at him. He had grown so much in the past year. He was taller, his voice was starting to change. He looked happy. When was the last time she had seen him genuinely happy? "Sure, sweetheart. That sounds fun. Thanks, Mom. You're the best." He went back to his homework and Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. She had been so worried about messing up, about not being enough for them. But they were okay. They were more than okay. That Friday, Naomi got a call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Is this Naomi Harrison?" "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Jennifer Torres. I'm an investor who specializes in healthcare technology startups. A colleague of mine used your ShiftSync app and told me about it. I'd like to discuss the possibility of investing in your company." Naomi's heart stopped. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your scheduling app. It's solving a real problem in a really elegant way. I'd like to meet with you to talk about how we could help you scale it to other hospitals. Are you available this week?" Was she available? Naomi looked around her small kitchen, at the bills stacked on the counter, at her laptop covered in sticky notes with code snippets. Was she available to talk to an actual investor about her app? "Yes," she said. "I'm available." They set up a meeting for the following Tuesday. After Naomi hung up, she sat in stunned silence for a full minute. Then she called Simone. "An investor wants to meet with me about ShiftSync." Simone screamed so loudly that Naomi had to pull the phone away from her ear. I told you this could be huge. Oh my God, Naomi, this is amazing." It was amazing. It was terrifying. It was everything she hadn't let herself hope for because hope felt too dangerous when you were barely surviving. The meeting with Jennifer Torres changed everything. Jennifer offered Naomi seed funding of $200,000 in exchange for 20% equity in ShiftSync. The money would allow Naomi to hire developers, market the app properly, and expand to other hospitals. She would have to quit her nursing job and run the company full-time. It was the biggest risk she had ever taken. But she was tired of playing it safe. Playing it safe had gotten her a failed marriage and crushing debt. Maybe it was time to bet on herself. She negotiated the terms with help from her legal aid lawyer, who connected her with a business attorney willing to work pro bono for a small equity stake. 3 weeks later, she signed the investment agreement. ShiftSync was officially a real company and she was the CEO. The day she put in her notice at County General was bittersweet. She loved nursing. She loved her patients and her co-workers. But she was building something that could help millions of healthcare workers, not just the ones on her floor. "You're going to do incredible things," her manager said when Naomi turned in her badge. "Come back and visit us when you're famous." Famous? Naomi couldn't imagine it. She just wanted to build a successful business and provide stability for her children. But maybe, just maybe, she could do both. That night, she told the kids about the change. They were confused at first. Mommy wasn't going to be a nurse anymore? But when she explained that she was starting her own company, that she had built something from nothing, their eyes went wide. "You made an app?" Caleb asked. "Like on phones?" "Yes, exactly like that. And now other hospitals are going to use it." "That's so cool." Zara said. "You're like a superhero." Naomi laughed. "I don't know about that." "You are," Isaiah insisted. "You save people and you make stuff. That's definitely a superhero." Looking at their proud faces, Naomi felt something shift inside her. For so long she had defined herself by what she had lost. Derek's wife. A single mother. Someone struggling to survive. But her children saw her differently. They saw her as someone strong and capable. Someone who built things. Someone who didn't give up. Maybe it was time she started seeing herself that way too. 2 years after Derek left, Naomi stood in the conference room of her new office building, looking out at the city skyline. ShiftSync now had 23 employees, contracts with 47 hospitals across 6 states, and revenue that still made her head spin when she looked at the quarterly reports. She had moved the kids out of the old house 6 months ago. The foreclosure had gone through despite her best efforts, but by then she didn't care. She had bought a beautiful 4-bedroom house in a better school district with a backyard big enough for the kids to play in. She paid cash. No mortgage. No depending on anyone else ever again. Naomi, the investors are here for the quarterly review, her assistant Rachel said, poking her head into the conference room. Naomi took a deep breath and smoothed down her dress. She had learned to dress the part of a CEO, though part of her still felt like she was playing pretend. Power suits, designer heels, professional makeup. She looked nothing like the exhausted nurse who had collapsed into bed in wrinkled scrubs 2 years ago. The quarterly review went well. The investors were thrilled with ShiftSync's growth trajectory. They wanted to talk about expanding beyond healthcare into other industries with shift work. Retail, hospitality, manufacturing. The potential was huge. After the meeting, Jennifer Torres pulled Naomi aside. You've exceeded every expectation we had. ShiftSync is on track to be valued at $10 million by the end of next year. $10 million. The number didn't even feel real. 2 years ago, Naomi couldn't pay her electricity bill. Now she was building a multi-million-dollar company. We should talk about another funding round, Jennifer continued. With the right capital, you could scale nationally within 18 months. Maybe even internationally. International? Naomi's head spun. I'm still getting used to being in 6 states. Jennifer laughed. Think bigger, Naomi. You've built something special. Don't limit yourself. That evening, Naomi picked up the kids from their after-school programs. Caleb was 9 now and deeply into robotics. The twins, at 7, were competing in gymnastics tournaments. They piled into her new SUV, chattering about their days. Mom, guess what? Zara said. I got first place on my beam routine. That's wonderful, baby. I'm so proud of you. And I made it to the finals in the regional robotics competition, Caleb added. Coach says our team has a real shot at winning. Both my kids are superstars, Naomi said, smiling at them in the rearview mirror. How did I get so lucky? You're the superstar, Mom, Isaiah said. My teacher asked if you could come talk to our class about being a business owner for career day. Really? You want me to do that? Of course. Everyone thinks it's so cool that my mom runs a company. Tommy's dad works at a bank and he acts like that's such a big deal, but you're literally the boss of everything. Naomi felt a warmth spread through her chest. Her children were proud of her. They saw her success and they were proud. That meant more than any quarterly revenue report. At home, while the kids did homework, Naomi's phone rang. A known number. She answered cautiously. Hello? Naomi? A woman's voice, hesitant. It's Patricia. Naomi's hand tightened on the phone. She hadn't spoken to Derek's mother in over 2 years, not since she had kicked her out of the house. What do you want? I heard about your company. About how well you're doing. I wanted to reach out. After 2 years? Why now? There was a long pause. Derek and Vanessa got divorced 6 months ago. He's been having a hard time. I thought maybe you could help him get a job. I know you have connections now in the medical field. Naomi laughed, a harsh sound. You're calling to ask me for a favor? For Derek. He made mistakes, but he's still the father of your children. And he's struggling. He's struggling? He's struggling? Naomi's voice rose. Where was he when I was working 16-hour shifts to keep a roof over our kids' heads? Where was he when they were eating food from the church pantry? Where were you? I know things were hard, but... No. You don't get to do this. You don't get to ignore me and your grandchildren for 2 years and then call asking for favors because Derek is finally facing consequences for his choices. The answer is no. Don't call this number again. She hung up, her hands shaking. The audacity. The absolute audacity of that woman to think Naomi would help Derek after everything he had done. Mom? You okay? Caleb stood in the doorway looking worried. Naomi took a breath and forced a smile. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just someone I don't want to talk to. Was it Dad? The question caught her off guard. The kids rarely mentioned Derek anymore. He had shown up for supervised visitation maybe 3 times in 2 years before stopping completely. He never called. Never sent birthday cards. He had completely disappeared from their lives. No, it was your grandmother. Patricia. Caleb's face hardened. He looked so much older than 9 in that moment. Good thing you hung up. She was always mean to you. You remember that? I remember a lot of things. I remember Dad leaving. I remember you crying when you thought we were asleep. I remember eating cereal for dinner because there wasn't anything else. And I remember you never giving up. He crossed the room and hugged her tight. You're the best mom ever. We don't need Dad or Grandma Patricia. We have you. Naomi held her son and felt tears stream down her face. But these weren't tears of sadness or stress. These were tears of relief, of gratitude. Her children were okay. More than okay. They were thriving and they knew how much she loved them. Later that night, after the kids were in bed, Naomi received a text from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she opened it. "This is Derek. I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I heard about your company. That's great. Really great. I'm happy for you. I was wondering if we could talk. I'd like to see the kids." Naomi stared at the message for a long time. 2 years. 2 years of silence, of missed child support payments, of broken promises. And now he wanted to talk because she was successful? She typed out a response. "You can see the kids through the court system. Have your lawyer contact mine to arrange supervised visitation. Do not contact me directly again." She blocked the number and deleted the message. Then she opened her laptop and got back to work on ShiftSync's expansion plans. She had a company to run, children to raise, and a future to build. She didn't have time for ghosts from her past. The next morning, as she was getting ready for work, Naomi looked at herself in the mirror. The never again list was still taped there, a little faded now but still readable. She had kept every promise on that list. She had built her own financial security. She had never let anyone make her feel less than. She had never given up. And she had rebuilt her life into something better than she had ever imagined. She peeled the list off the mirror and put it in a frame on her desk. She didn't need to see it every morning anymore. Those lessons were part of who she was now. Naomi's stomach tightened. He did what? Yeah, security turned him away, but apparently he was pretty insistent about seeing you. Said he needed to talk to you about something important. Lauren looked uncomfortable. I probably shouldn't have mentioned it. No, I'm glad you did. Thank you. After Lauren left, Naomi sat at the bar nursing a glass of wine and processing this information. Derek had shown up at her old hospital? What? What could he possibly want? Her phone buzzed. A text from Simone. "Girl, you're trending on Twitter. The video of your speech is everywhere. So proud of you." Naomi pulled up Twitter and saw that clips from her keynote had been shared thousands of times. People were commenting on her story, her success, her message about fighting for yourself. She scrolled through the comments, most positive, some skeptical, a few outright mean. And then she saw it. A comment from an account with Derek's name. "Proud of what you've accomplished. We should talk." Her blood ran cold. He was watching her, following her success. And now he wanted to talk. About what? What could he possibly have to say after 4 years of silence? She blocked the account and put her phone away. She refused to let him ruin this moment. She had given an incredible speech. Her company was thriving. Her children were happy and healthy. Derek was just noise, and she had learned how to tune out noise. When she got home the next day, the kids rushed to greet her at the door. "Mom, you were on TV." Isaiah shouted. "Our teacher showed the whole class." "Really?" Naomi laughed, dropping her bags and hugging them all. "Yeah, there was a news story about successful business owners and you were one of them," Caleb explained. "Everyone thought it was so cool. Can we watch it again?" They all piled onto the couch and watched the news segment together. It showed clips from her keynote speech and an interview where she talked about ShiftSync's mission and growth. The reporter called her an inspiration to working mothers everywhere. "You look like a movie star," Zara said, leaning against Naomi. "Can I be a business owner when I grow up?" "You can be anything you want to be, baby. I want to be like you." Naomi's heart swelled. This was success. Not the money or the magazine articles or the accolades. This was her children believing they could do anything because they watched her do it. This was breaking cycles and showing them what was possible. That night, after the kids were asleep, Naomi sat in her home office and looked at the framed, "Never Again" list on her desk. She had come so far from that broken woman who had made that list. She had built a life beyond anything she had imagined possible. And Derek? Derek was somewhere watching from the sidelines, seeing what he had walked away from, understanding what he had lost. That was his burden to carry, not hers. She had won. Not because she got revenge. Not because she proved something to him. But because she had saved herself and built something beautiful from the ashes of her old life. And she was just getting started. 4 years and 2 months after Derek left, Naomi walked through the convention center in Atlanta, her heels clicking confidently on the polished floor. She was the keynote speaker at the National Healthcare Innovation Summit, one of the biggest conferences in the industry. ShiftSync was now valued at $53 million and used by over 800 healthcare facilities nationwide. She had a team of 75 employees, an office in 3 cities, and interest from international markets. She looked nothing like the woman Derek had left. Her hair was styled professionally, her makeup was flawless, and her designer pantsuit fit perfectly. She had lost the stress weight, gained muscle from finally having time to exercise, and carried herself with confidence that came from knowing exactly who she was and what she was worth. "Miss Harrison, we're ready for your sound check," a conference organizer said, appearing at her elbow. "I'll be right there." Naomi grabbed her coffee from the vendor booth and headed toward the main stage. As she turned the corner, she collided with someone, coffee splashing onto her hand. "I'm so sorry." The man grabbed napkins from a nearby table. "Are you okay? Did it burn you?" "I'm fine, it's just—" Naomi looked up and her words died in her throat. Derek stared back at her, his face going pale. For a moment, neither of them spoke. He looked different. Older. Tired. His hair was thinning, his face was thinner, and he wore a suit that had seen better days. But it was definitely him. "Naomi?" His voice cracked. "Is that you?" "Excuse me." She tried to step around him. He grabbed her arm. "Wait, please. I can't believe it's really you. You look incredible." She pulled her arm free. "Don't touch me. I'm sorry. I saw the conference program and I couldn't believe it when I saw your name as the keynote speaker. I thought maybe it was someone else with the same name. But it's really you. You built ShiftSync. That's your company. What are you doing here, Derek?" "I'm looking for work. I have experience in medical sales and I heard there were hiring managers here. I never expected to run into you. Naomi, you look amazing. I can't believe how much you've changed." "I haven't changed. You just never really saw me." She moved to walk past him again. "Wait, please. Can we talk? Just for a few minutes. There's so much I need to say to you. I have to do a sound check. I'm the keynote speaker at this conference. Some of us have responsibilities." The dig hit its mark. Derek's face flushed. "I know I messed up. I know I was a terrible husband and father. But seeing you now, seeing what you've become, I'm proud of you." "You're proud of me?" Naomi laughed, a cold sound. "You don't get to be proud of me. You didn't do this." "I did. After you left us with nothing, after you abandoned your children and stole our money, I built this. Every single piece of it. And you were nowhere near it." "Miss Harrison?" The conference organizer appeared, looking worried. "We really need you for sound check." "I'm coming." She looked at Derek one more time. "Stay away from me. Stay away from my children. You made your choice 4 years ago. Live with it." She walked away without looking back, her hands shaking but her head held high. Behind her she could feel Derek watching, but she didn't care. She had a speech to give. The sound check went smoothly despite her racing heart. She ran through her opening lines, tested the clicker for her slides, and took deep breaths to center herself. Derek was here. In this building. But she couldn't let that ruin this moment. She had worked too hard to let him take anything else from her. An hour later, she stood backstage waiting for her introduction. She could hear the conference host talking about her accomplishments, her journey, her impact on the healthcare industry. The auditorium was packed with over 2,000 people. "Please welcome Naomi Harrison, founder and CEO of ShiftSync." The applause was thunderous. Naomi walked onto the stage, smiled at the crowd, and felt her anxiety melt away. This was her element now. She had given dozens of speeches. She knew how to command a room. 4 years ago, I was working as a charge nurse, pulling double shifts, and trying to figure out how to build a better future for my children, she began. I had no money, no connections, and no business experience. What I did have was a problem that needed solving and the determination to solve it. She told her story, carefully edited to focus on the business rather than personal drama. She talked about the challenges of building a tech company from scratch, about learning to code at 3 a.m., about the rejection from investors who didn't think a nurse could build a successful software company. Halfway through her speech, she glanced at the audience and her heart stopped. Derek sat in the back row, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Regret? Sadness? Longing? She didn't know and she didn't care. She refocused on her speech, on the people in the audience who were there to learn and be inspired. She talked about scaling the business, about the importance of listening to your users, about building a company culture that valued employees. She showed data on ShiftSync's impact, how it had reduced scheduling conflicts by 73% and increased staff satisfaction scores across the board. The biggest lesson I've learned is that you are never stuck, she concluded. No matter how impossible your situation seems, you have the power to change it. It won't be easy. It will require sacrifice and hard work and believing in yourself when no one else does. But it's possible. I'm living proof that it's possible. The standing ovation lasted for 3 minutes. People rushed the stage afterward, wanting to talk to her, to take photos, to exchange business cards. Naomi smiled and chatted and networked, all while keeping one eye out for Derek. She didn't want another confrontation. When the crowd finally cleared, she headed back to the speaker's lounge to gather her things. Her phone was full of messages congratulating her on the speech. Simone had texted, "You killed it. The live stream was incredible." "Naomi." Derek's voice came from behind her. She spun around. "What part of 'stay away from me' did you not understand? I just want 5 minutes. Please. There are things you need to know." "I don't need to know anything from you. It's about the kids." Naomi's blood went cold. "What about the kids? I want to see them. I've made a lot of mistakes, but they're my children too. I want a chance to be in their lives." "You had a chance. You had 4 years of chances. You missed birthdays, holidays, school events. You stopped paying child support after 3 payments. You disappeared completely. And now you want to be in their lives because you saw me on stage. It's not like that. I've been thinking about this for a long time. Seeing you today just gave me the courage to finally say something. The answer is no. You can't keep me from my children. Watch me. I have full legal custody. The court terminated your visitation rights after you failed to show up for 6 months. If you want to see them, you can go through the proper legal channels and prove you're capable of being a father. But don't hold your breath. I've changed, Naomi. I'm not the same person who left. Good for you. But that doesn't change the fact that you abandoned 3 children who needed you. They've spent 4 years learning to live without you. They're happy now. They're thriving. And I'm not going to let you waltz back in and disrupt their lives because you suddenly decided you want to play dad. I made mistakes. You made choices. There's a difference. And now you live with the consequences." She picked up her bag and headed for the door. "Don't contact me again. If you do, I'll get another restraining order." She left him standing there and didn't look back. Her hands were shaking as she made her way to her hotel room. Once inside, she locked the door and let herself feel the full weight of the encounter. Derek had looked so small. So diminished. The man who had once held all the power in their relationship now looked lost and desperate. Part of her felt satisfaction. He had thrown away his family for Vanessa, and now he had nothing. No wife, no children, no career success. He had burned everything down and realized too late that he couldn't rebuild. But mostly she just felt tired. Tired of carrying anger. Tired of the past intruding on her present. She had built something beautiful from the rubble of her old life, and she refused to let Derek taint it. She called home and FaceTimed with the kids. They were at her mom's house, doing homework and eating dinner. "How was your speech, Mom?" Caleb asked. "It went really well, sweetheart." "Did people clap a lot?" "They gave me a standing ovation." "That's because you're awesome," Zara said, her face close to the camera. "When are you coming home?" "Tomorrow afternoon. I miss you guys so much." "We miss you too," Isaiah said. "Grandma is making us eat vegetables." Naomi laughed. "Good. You need vegetables." After she hung up, she sat on the hotel bed and thought about Derek's request. He wanted to see the kids. Part of her wanted to keep them away from him forever, to protect them from further disappointment. But another part of her wondered if she was being fair. Did the kids deserve a chance to know their father, even if he was flawed? No. The answer was no. Not until he proved he was serious. Not until he showed consistent, reliable effort. Not until he paid the back child support he owed. Not until he demonstrated that he cared about them more than he cared about easing his own guilt. Her children deserved better than broken promises and abandoned visits. They deserved someone who would show up consistently, who would put them first, who would love them unconditionally. Derek hadn't been that person 4 years ago, and one good speech from her wasn't going to magically transform him into that person now. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry for approaching you today. You were right. I don't deserve to be in your life or the kids' lives. But I want you to know that I'm proud of what you've built. You were always stronger than I gave you credit for. Derek." Naomi deleted the text without responding. She didn't need his approval or his pride. She had everything she needed already. And she had earned every bit of it herself. The weeks following the conference, Derek's presence became a growing shadow over Naomi's life. He didn't contact her directly again, but she started hearing about him from other people. He had reached out to mutual friends from their old life, asking about her and the kids. He had contacted the school, claiming he wanted to see the children's records. He had even called her mother, trying to get information. "He called me yesterday," her mother said over the phone. "Said he wanted to send birthday presents to the kids. I told him to send them through your lawyer if he was serious. What did he say to that? He hung up. Of course he did. Derek wanted the appearance of being a caring father without any of the actual work or accountability that came with it. Then the emails started. They came to her business account, which meant he had looked her up. They were long, rambling messages about regret and change and wanting another chance. He talked about how much he had grown, how he understood his mistakes now, how seeing her success had made him realize what a fool he had been. Naomi deleted each one without responding. But they kept coming. One every few days, then one every day, then multiple times a day. He started tagging ShiftSync's social media accounts in posts about fatherhood and redemption. Her PR team had to address it. We can file for a cease and desist, her lawyer advised. This is borderline harassment. Do it, Naomi said. I want it documented. The cease and desist letter was delivered by a process server. For 3 days there was silence. Naomi let herself hope that Derek had finally gotten the message. Then he showed up at her office building. Rachel, her assistant, called her in a panic. There's a man in the lobby claiming to be the father of your children. Security won't let him up, but he's refusing to leave. He says he'll wait as long as it takes to see you. Naomi's jaw tightened. Call the police. Tell them we have someone trespassing who was served a cease and desist. Are you sure? He seems really desperate. I'm sure. Call them now. 20 minutes later, Naomi watched from her office window as police escorted Derek out of the building. He was arguing with them, gesturing wildly. She couldn't hear what he was saying, but she could guess. He probably was telling them this was all a misunderstanding, that he just wanted to talk to his ex-wife, that she was being unreasonable. The police put him in their car. Not under arrest, just removing him from the property. Naomi watched until they drove away, then closed the blinds and sat down at her desk, her hands shaking. Are you okay? Rachel asked from the doorway. I'm fine. Just make sure security knows that he's not allowed in this building under any circumstances. If he shows up again, they should call the police immediately without contacting me first. Understood. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. It's not your fault. Some people can't accept that they lost something. That evening, Naomi sat the kids down for a serious conversation. They were older now. Caleb was almost 11, the twins were 9. They were old enough to understand the situation. I need to talk to you about your father, she said carefully. Did he die? Zara asked, eyes wide. No, nothing like that. But he's been trying to contact me, and I want you to know what's happening in case anyone approaches you. What do you mean, approaches us? Caleb's voice was wary. Your father is trying to become part of your lives again. I don't know what his intentions are, but I need you all to be aware. If anyone you don't know tries to talk to you at school or anywhere else, I want you to tell a teacher or another adult immediately. Why would Dad send strangers? Isaiah asked. I don't think he will. But I want you to be safe. And I want you to know that if he does try to contact you directly, you don't have to talk to him if you don't want to. I don't want to, Caleb said flatly. He left us. Why would we want to talk to him now? Because he's your father, and if you ever want a relationship with him, I won't stop you. But it has to be on your terms when you're ready, and it has to be safe. Zara looked confused. I barely remember him. I remember he used to read us stories sometimes. But that's all. I remember he missed my birthday, Isaiah said quietly. You made cupcakes and we had a party, but he never came. You said he had to work, but I heard you crying in your room that night. Naomi's heart broke. She had tried so hard to shield them from her pain, but children saw more than adults realized. Your father made choices that hurt all of us, Naomi said carefully. But that doesn't mean he's a bad person. It means he wasn't ready to be the father you deserved. Maybe he's different now, maybe he's not. But either way, you get to decide what kind of relationship you want with him, if any. I don't want any relationship, Caleb said firmly. You're the one who's been there for us. You're the one who works hard and takes care of us. He's just some guy who shares our DNA. Don't say that, Naomi said, even though part of her agreed. He's your father. That means something even if he hasn't acted like it. Does it though? Caleb looked at her with eyes too old for his age. Being a parent is about showing up. He hasn't shown up for 4 years. Why would we want him now? Naomi didn't have an answer for that. She pulled Caleb into a hug, then gathered the twins close too. Whatever you decide, I support you. And I promise I'll always protect you. That night, after the kids were in bed, Naomi received a phone call from her lawyer. Derek filed a motion for visitation rights, he said without preamble. He's claiming he's cleaned up his life and wants to be involved with the children. On what basis? his rights were terminated. He's arguing that was unfair, that he was going through a difficult time and has now stabilized. He's hired a lawyer and they're pushing for court-ordered therapy and supervised visitation. Can he do that? He can file the motion. Whether the judge will grant it is another question. You have full custody and he has a history of abandonment and failure to pay support. But courts do generally favor family reunification if possible. Even when it's not in the children's best interest? That's what we'll argue. I'll need statements from the kid's therapist, their teachers, anyone who can speak to their emotional well-being and how his absence has affected them. After she hung up, Naomi sat in the dark living room of her beautiful house, looking at family photos on the wall. Pictures of her and the kids at the beach, at graduations, at gymnastics competitions. Derek wasn't in any of them. He had erased himself from their lives and now he wanted back in. Her phone buzzed. Another email from Derek. I know you got the legal papers. I'm not trying to hurt you or the kids. I just want a chance to show I've changed. Please don't fight this. Let me prove I can be the father they deserve. Naomi typed out a response. You had thousands of chances to be the father they deserved. You wasted every single one. I will fight this with everything I have because my children's well-being is more important than your guilt or your need for redemption. You don't get to waltz back in and play happy family after 4 years of absence. If you want to be in their lives, prove it through your actions over time, not through legal force. But know this, they don't want you. They've told me so. You're a stranger to them and that's your fault, not mine. She deleted the email without sending it. Responding would only encourage him. Instead, she forwarded it to her lawyer as more evidence of harassment. The next morning, as she was getting ready for work, Rachel called. Derek is on the news. What? Turn on channel 7. He's giving an interview. Naomi pulled up the news channel on her phone with a sinking feeling. There was Derek sitting across from a sympathetic reporter telling his story. I made terrible mistakes, he said, his voice breaking. I left my family during a dark period in my life. I was selfish and I wasn't thinking about how my actions would affect my children. But I've spent the last 4 years working on myself, getting therapy and trying to become a better person. Now my ex-wife won't let me see my own kids. She's built this successful company and I'm proud of her, but she's using her power and resources to keep me away from my children. The reporter looked concerned. You've filed for visitation rights? Yes, I just want a chance to know my children. I want to show them that I've changed, that I can be the father I should have been from the beginning. But she's fighting me every step of the way. That must be incredibly difficult. It is. But I understand why she's angry. I just hope she can find it in her heart to forgive me and let me be part of my children's lives. The interview ended with Derek looking directly at the camera, his eyes wet with tears. Naomi, if you're watching this, please. Just give me a chance. That's all I'm asking for. Naomi's phone started ringing immediately. Her lawyer, her PR team, her mother, Simone. Everyone had seen it. Derek had gone public with their story, painting himself as the repentant father being kept from his children by his vindictive ex-wife. She stood in her bathroom, staring at herself in the mirror, and felt a white-hot rage building inside her. He had done it again. He had taken her story, her struggle, her success, and made it about him. He had weaponized public sympathy to try to force his way back into their lives. But this time she wasn't the powerless woman he had left behind. This time she had resources, a platform, and the strength to fight back. And she would fight. Not for revenge. Not to hurt him. But to protect her children from a man who still only thought about himself. Derek wanted a war? Fine. She had won much bigger battles than this. And she would win this one too. The morning after Derek's interview aired, Naomi's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. News outlets wanted her response. Social media was full of people taking sides, some supporting Derek's right to see his children, others defending her decision to protect them. The story had gone viral and she was trending on 3 different platforms. Her PR team had scheduled an emergency meeting. They sat in her office conference room looking stressed. We need to get ahead of this, Marcus, her PR director, said. Derek's interview is everywhere. The narrative is shifting toward him being the victim. I'm not doing an interview, Naomi said firmly. I'm not going to turn my children's trauma into entertainment. I understand that, but silence can be interpreted as guilt. People are already saying you're keeping a father from his children out of spite. People who don't know anything about the situation. I don't owe strangers an explanation about my family. What about a statement? Rachel suggested. Something short that addresses the situation without going into detail. Naomi considered it. She didn't want to engage with Derek's narrative, but she also couldn't let him control the story. Fine. Draft something and I'll review it. An hour later, ShiftSync's official social media accounts posted a statement. Ms. Harrison appreciates the support during this difficult time. The well-being of her children is and always has been her top priority. This is a private family matter that should not be litigated in the media. She asks for privacy as she continues to protect her children's best interests. It was diplomatic, professional, and said almost nothing. Perfect. But Derek didn't stop. Over the next week he gave 3 more interviews. He showed up at charity events Naomi was scheduled to attend, trying to corner her. He started a social media campaign with the hashtag, #LetDadSeeTheirKids, that gained traction among divorced fathers groups. Then he made his biggest mistake. He showed up at Caleb's robotics competition. Naomi's mother called her in a panic. Derek is here at the school. He's trying to talk to Caleb. Naomi left her office immediately, calling her lawyer on the way. Derek is at my son's school. He's violating the cease and desist. I'm filing for a restraining order right now. Get there as fast as you can and document everything. When Naomi arrived at the school, security had already escorted Derek out of the building. Caleb stood with his grandmother, looking pale and shaken. Baby, are you okay? Naomi pulled him into a hug. He came up to me during the break, Caleb said, his voice trembling. He said he was my dad and he wanted to talk. I told him to leave me alone, but he kept following me. I had to get a teacher. You did exactly the right thing. I'm so proud of you. Why won't he leave us alone, Mom? We don't want him here. I know, sweetheart. I'm handling it. The school principal approached, looking concerned. Mrs. Harrison, I'm so sorry. He claimed he was on the approved visitor list. We've updated our records to flag his name. It won't happen again. Thank you. I'm also filing for a restraining order. You'll receive a copy for your records. That evening, Naomi sat the kids down again. This time she didn't sugarcoat things. Your father is trying very hard to be in your lives again, she said. He's gone to the media, he's filed legal papers, and now he showed up at Caleb's school. I need to know how you feel about all of this because the judge might want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to him, Caleb said immediately. He scared me today. I don't remember him enough to want to talk to him, Zara added. Isaiah was quiet for a moment. If we talk to him, will you be there? If the judge orders visitation, it would be supervised. I or another adult would be present. And if he's mean or we don't like it, we can stop? Absolutely. You can stop anytime. But I need to know, do any of you want a relationship with your father? All 3 children shook their heads. Are you sure? This is a big decision. Mom, he left us, Caleb said, his voice steady despite his tears. He didn't care about us for 4 years. Now he only wants to be our dad because you're successful and he wants to look good. We're not stupid. We can see what he's doing. Naomi felt her heart break and swell with pride at the same time. Her children were smart, perceptive, and knew their own minds. Okay, I'll tell the lawyer. But if you ever change your mind, that's okay too. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the following week. Naomi arrived at the courthouse with her lawyer, her mother, and statements from the kids' therapist, teachers, and pediatrician, all documenting their well-being and their clearly expressed wishes to not have contact with Derek. Derek showed up with his lawyer and a new attitude. Gone was the desperate, emotional man from the interviews. Today he was dressed professionally, spoke calmly, and presented himself as a reasonable person being denied his parental rights. The judge reviewed all the evidence. Derek's abandonment, his failure to pay child support, his recent harassment, his violation of the cease and desist by showing up at the school. Then she asked to speak to the children in her chambers. Naomi waited outside while the judge talked to Caleb individually. He was old enough to speak for himself. The twins were younger, but the judge spoke to them too, separately and gently. When the judge returned to the courtroom, her expression was serious. I've reviewed all the evidence and spoken to the children. Mr. Harrison, your behavior over the past several months has been inappropriate and concerning. You violated a cease and desist order, harassed your ex-wife at her place of business, and approached your son at school without authorization. Your Honor, I was just trying to. I'm not finished. You abandoned these children for 4 years. You failed to provide financial support. You made no effort to maintain a relationship until after Ms. Harrison achieved significant business success. Your sudden interest in fatherhood appears to be motivated by something other than genuine concern for your children's well-being. That's not true. I love my children. Love is demonstrated through consistent action, Mr. Harrison, not through media interviews and legal maneuvers. The children have clearly expressed that they do not wish to have contact with you. They are old enough to have their wishes considered, and their mother has provided substantial evidence that they are thriving under her care. The judge looked at the papers in front of her. I'm granting the restraining order. Mr. Harrison, you are prohibited from contacting Ms. Harrison or the children directly or indirectly. You may not approach them at school, their home, or any other location. You may not contact them through third parties or social media. Your Honor, please. If you wish to pursue visitation in the future, you may file a formal petition, but you must first demonstrate consistent child support payments, completion of parenting classes, and a psychological evaluation. This court's priority is the well-being of the children, and right now, your presence in their lives appears to cause them distress rather than benefit. The gavel came down. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Derek's lawyer tried to approach Naomi. Her lawyer stepped between them. The restraining order is in effect immediately. Any contact is a violation. Derek stood on the courthouse steps looking lost. For a moment, Naomi almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then she thought about Caleb's scared face when Derek approached him at school, and the pity evaporated. She got in her car and drove to pick up the kids from her mother's house. They were waiting anxiously, trying to pretend they weren't worried. Well? Caleb asked as soon as she walked in. The judge granted the restraining order. Your father can't contact us anymore. The relief on their faces was immediate and heartbreaking. These were children who should have been sad about their father being kept away. Instead, they were relieved. That told Naomi everything she needed to know about whether she had made the right decision. That night, she tucked each child into bed and reassured them that they were safe, that she would always protect them, that they could go back to their normal lives now. After they were asleep, she sat in her home office and looked at all the evidence she had compiled over the past months. Derek's harassing emails, screenshots of his social media posts, security footage of him showing up at her office, witness statements from the school. It painted a picture of a man who was obsessed with what he had lost, not genuinely invested in his children's lives. Her phone buzzed. A text from Simone. Saw the news about the restraining order. You did the right thing. Those kids are lucky to have you. Naomi smiled. She had faced down her ex-husband, protected her children, and refused to let him manipulate her through guilt or public pressure. She had stood firm in the face of criticism from people who didn't know their story. And she had won. But the victory felt hollow. This wasn't how she had wanted things to end. She had never wanted Derek to be completely cut off from the kids. She had just wanted him to earn his place in their lives, to prove he was serious about being a father. Instead, he had proven he was still the same selfish man who had left them 4 years ago. He wanted the appearance of being a good father without doing any of the actual work. He wanted credit for showing up without having to actually show up consistently. And her children were better off without that kind of instability. She closed her laptop and went to bed, exhausted but at peace. This chapter was finally closed. She could move forward now, focus on her business and her children and the life they were building together. Derek was part of their past, but he had no place in their future. And that was exactly how it should be. 5 years after Derek left, Naomi stood in her walk-in closet, trying to decide what to wear. It was a good problem to have. The closet was full of beautiful clothes, designer shoes, and accessories she had never imagined owning. But tonight was special and she wanted to look perfect. Mom, Isaiah is here. Zara called from downstairs. Naomi smiled. Isaiah. Not her son Isaiah, but Isaiah Carter, the man who had changed her life in the most unexpected way. They had met 2 years ago at a school event. He was a 5th-grade teacher at the kids' school, kind and patient with his students, funny and genuine with the adults. They had started talking about education, then about their lives, and before she knew it, she was agreeing to have coffee with him. Dating as a single mother and CEO had seemed impossible. She was too busy, too focused, too wary of trusting anyone again. But Isaiah had been persistent in the gentlest way. He never pushed, never demanded. He just showed up, consistently and reliably, until she couldn't imagine her life without him. He was good with the kids. Patient when they tested him, understanding when they pulled away, steady in his affection. He had earned their trust slowly, never trying to replace their father but simply being present in a way Derek had never been. Tonight, he had invited her to dinner. Just the two of them, no kids, no work talk. She hadn't pressed for details, but there was something in his voice when he called that made her think this evening might be important. She chose a simple navy dress, elegant but not overdone, and headed downstairs. Isaiah was in the living room with the kids, playing video games. Caleb was 13 now, tall and lanky, passionate about robotics and computer science. The twins were 11, Zara still competing in gymnastics at a high level, Isaiah, her son, exploring music and art. "You look beautiful," Isaiah Carter said, standing when she entered the room. He looked nervous, which was unusual for him. "You clean up pretty well yourself," she teased. "Are you guys getting married?" Zara asked bluntly. "Zara?" Naomi felt her face heat. Isaiah just laughed. "What makes you ask that?" "Because Isaiah has been acting weird all week and you're both dressed fancy. Plus, I saw him looking at ring websites on his laptop." "You weren't supposed to see that," Isaiah muttered, but he was smiling. Naomi's heart raced. Was he really planning to propose? They had talked about the future, about building a life together, but she hadn't expected it to happen so soon. "We'll see what happens," Isaiah said mysteriously. "But right now your grandma is coming to stay with you. Be good for her, okay?" After Naomi's mother arrived and they had said their goodbyes, Isaiah drove them to a restaurant overlooking the water. It was early autumn, and the sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. Over dinner they talked about everything and nothing. Isaiah told her about his students, about a particularly challenging parent conference he had navigated. Naomi told him about ShiftSync's expansion into Europe, about the new features they were developing. It was easy and comfortable, the way it always was with him. Then, as they finished dessert, Isaiah took her hand across the table. "Naomi, I need to tell you something." Her heart pounded. "Okay. When I met you 2 years ago, I thought you were the most intimidating woman I had ever seen. Successful, brilliant, beautiful. I was just a schoolteacher with a modest salary and a small apartment. I didn't think I had a chance." "Isaiah, let me finish. But then I got to know you. I saw how you were with your kids, how hard you worked, how kind you were to everyone around you. I saw your strength, but I also saw your vulnerability. And I realized something important." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Naomi's breath caught. "I realized that you weren't looking for someone to save you. You had already saved yourself. You weren't looking for someone to complete you. You were already complete. What you needed was someone who would stand beside you, who would support your dreams, who would love your children as much as you do, and who would never make you question your worth." He opened the box to reveal a simple, elegant ring. "Naomi, I want to be that person for the rest of your life. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Naomi's face. She looked at this man who had been patient and kind, who had shown her that not all men would abandon her, who had loved her children without reservation. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." The restaurant applauded as Isaiah slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her. Naomi laughed through her tears, feeling joy bloom in her chest like nothing she had experienced in years. On the drive home, Naomi's phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello? Naomi." Derek's voice, distant and rough. "I know I'm not supposed to call you, but I wanted you to know. I saw the announcement. Your engagement. And I'm happy for you. Derek, you're violating the restraining order." "I know. I'm not trying to cause problems. I just wanted to say that I'm glad you found someone who treats you right. I hope your kids like him. They love him. He's been more of a father to them in 2 years than you were in their whole lives." There was a long silence. "I know. I threw away everything good in my life. I see that now. I'm not asking for forgiveness or another chance. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. And I'm glad you built something beautiful from the mess I left behind." "I didn't build it from your mess, Derek. I built it despite your mess. There's a difference." "I know that too. Goodbye, Naomi. Be happy." The line went dead. Naomi looked at the phone in her hand, then at Isaiah driving beside her, then at the engagement ring sparkling on her finger. Derek had lost everything and she had gained everything. But it wasn't because she had set out for revenge. It wasn't because she had tried to prove something to him. She had simply focused on building a better life for herself and her children, and success had followed. When they got home, the kids were still awake, waiting for them. The moment Naomi walked in, they rushed over. "Did he ask? Did you say yes?" Zara practically shouted. Naomi held up her hand, showing the ring. The kids erupted in cheers. Even Caleb, who tried to act too cool for such displays, was grinning ear to ear. "Does this mean Isaiah is going to be our dad?" her son Isaiah asked. Isaiah Carter knelt down to their level. "I'm going to be your stepdad. That means I'll be here for you, I'll support you, and I'll love you. But I'll never try to replace your father. He's your father, even if he's not around." "He's not our father," Caleb said firmly. "A father is someone who shows up, You show up. You're more of a dad to us than he ever was. Isaiah's eyes got misty. Thank you for saying that. It means the world to me. That night, after the kids finally went to bed, still buzzing with excitement, Naomi and Isaiah sat on the back porch, looking at the stars. I got a call from Derek tonight, Naomi said quietly. He violated the restraining order to congratulate me on our engagement. Are you going to report it? No. I think he's finally letting go. I could hear it in his voice. He sounded defeated, but also at peace somehow. Like he's accepted that he lost his chance. Do you think he'll try to contact the kids? I don't know. Maybe eventually. But they're older now. They can make their own choices about whether they want a relationship with him. And whatever they choose, I'll support them. You're an amazing mother, Isaiah said, pulling her close. I'm just trying to do right by them. You're doing more than that. You're showing them what strength looks like, what resilience looks like. You're teaching them that no matter what life throws at you, you can come back stronger. 6 months later, Naomi stood in her backyard, surrounded by 300 guests, wearing a simple white dress and holding a bouquet of wildflowers. Her children stood beside her, Caleb as the ring bearer, the twins as flower girls. Isaiah stood at the front, looking at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. As they exchanged vows, Naomi thought about how far she had come. From the broken woman on the kitchen floor reading divorce papers, to the exhausted nurse working doubles to survive, to the determined entrepreneur building something from nothing, to this moment, standing beside a man who loved her and her children completely. The reception was beautiful. ShiftSync's entire team was there, along with friends, family, and business associates. Simone gave a tearful toast about watching Naomi rise from rock bottom to the top of her field. Her mother spoke about how proud she was of her daughter's strength and resilience. During the father-daughter dance, Caleb stepped in to dance with Naomi since there was no father to do it. But Isaiah cut in halfway through, and Naomi danced with her new husband while her children looked on with joy. Later, as she was talking with guests, Naomi saw something that made her pause. Through the fence, barely visible in the fading light, she saw a figure watching. Derek. He stood there for just a moment, then turned and walked away. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't call the police. She just let him go. He had come to see what he lost, and now he knew. This was his final goodbye, and she accepted it as such. That night, as she and Isaiah left for their honeymoon, 2 weeks in Italy, her first real vacation in years, Naomi looked back at her house. Her mother waved from the porch, the kids beside her, all smiling and happy. Ready for the next chapter? Isaiah asked. More than ready, Naomi said. Because this was her happy ending. Not because she got revenge on Derek. Not because she proved him wrong. But because she had saved herself, built something extraordinary, and found someone who valued her exactly as she was. Derek had left her with 3 kids and nothing else. She had taken that nothing and turned it into everything. She had built a multimillion-dollar company, raised 3 incredible children, and found love again with a man who would never abandon her. She had won not by defeating Derek, but by refusing to let him defeat her. And that was the sweetest victory of all. 3 years later, Naomi stood on stage at a major technology conference in Singapore. ShiftSync had gone international, with operations in 42 countries and over 2 million active users. The company was now valued at $200 million, and she had been named one of the most influential women in tech. As she gave her keynote speech about building businesses that solve real problems, she looked out at the audience and thought about that scared woman who had found divorce papers on her kitchen table 8 years ago. That woman had no idea what she was capable of. She had no idea how strong she could become. My success isn't about the money or the recognition, Naomi told the audience. It's about the day I decided I wouldn't let my circumstances define me. It's about the nights I spent learning to code when I was so tired I could barely keep my eyes open. It's about my children who watched me rebuild my life and learned that failure isn't permanent unless you let it be. After the speech, as reporters and investors crowded around her, Naomi's phone buzzed. A text from Isaiah. The kids and I watched the live stream. You were brilliant. We love you so much. She smiled and texted back, love you too. Coming home soon. Home. She had a home now, full of love and laughter and support. She had a career that fulfilled her. She had children who were thriving. She had everything she needed and more. And somewhere, Derek was watching from the sidelines, finally understanding what he had thrown away. Not because she had set out to hurt him, but because she had set out to save herself. That was the real revenge. Living well. Building something beautiful. Being happy. She had started with nothing but 3 kids and a mountain of debt. She had ended up with everything that mattered. and she had done it all herself.